7 o'clock, we'll call the White Bear Township Board meeting to order for September 16th, 2019. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I gather, Patrick, we're adding 9A.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if it pleases the board, I'd like to add, well, you received a supplement to 7A, a small change in that topic that's already existing on your agenda, and then we'd also like to add 9A, a discussion about the town's position on the water gremlin situation.
All right, that it?
That's it.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Move to approve as amended. Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? That motion carries. Item number 3 is approval of payment of the bills.
Move to approve. I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Then we have, need a motion to approve the minutes of September 4th, 2019. Steve, I understand you had some
I
corrections?
had one small correction, Mr.
Staff handled it.
Okay,
Yep.
then move to approve with the minor correction for periods.
Do I have a second on the motion?
I will second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving on, item number 5, consent agenda. It looks like we have 7 of them. If no one has any conflict with them, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I will move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. Item number 8A, we have flow monitoring. Who's taking this one?
So, there's been some discussion, and I understand, and I was at the last meeting, but regarding the flow monitoring and the proposals and the cost, how the expenses are going to be paid, et cetera. So what my suggestion would be is, after talking to Chad a little bit about the review he did and on the current JPA and that, is we just because, for 2 reasons. One is the review of the JPA with North Oaks, and then also the timing at this point is getting late in the year. So we'd have flow monitors out in November, or first part of December, and not knowing snow, cold, I'm going to make a recommendation that we just postpone it till next year, and we can go forward with that. I'll get the approval at that time, get revised quotes for 2020, and then bring that to for your approval at that time.
Do you have a rough idea what month? I'm guessing
Well,
it has to be one.
Actually, I'd like to probably get it in, if we can, in March, in the thaw, April. That would be when I propose to have them installed. So I will be coming early
Okay.
2020.
So we won't run into this again next year?
No, we'll have this resolved.
Okay.
So the issue with the JPA, you're going to work on over the winter to come to some understanding? Just so that our audience that listens to this, what is the concern? I mean, I'll state what my concern was. It's a charge that we're making sure that that the inflow into our sewer system in general, we need to know what there is, and then it's a question of how it gets fulfilled within the agreement as to who pays the costs. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
And Chad, you've had a chance to look over the joint powers agreement?
Mr. Chair, I have, if you mind, I have copies of it if you want to take a look at it.
I trust you.
All right. Well, under the terms of the JPA, all maintenance costs are just done on an annual basis as one lump sum. The town does have the right to adjust the maintenance charges by resolution on an annual basis. The last time that I could find that you did it was in 2017 when you adopted a memorandum of understanding, which changed the costs at that time to $36.92 for sanitary sewer only and $37.15 for sanitary sewer and water. Now that's quarterly, and as far as I can tell, that's per household in North Oaks. So what you could do is you could simply adjust your quarterly charge accordingly to take into account the amount you're going to be expending.
Would this be considered something besides maintenance?
No. Well, Mr. Chair, I would say no, because the master agreement doesn't, the master JPA does not allow for specific charges. It just says maintenance charge only. And this would appear to me to be a maintenance charge only.
So we'd have to figure out a fair and equitable way of distributing that cost per resident for North Oaks?
Per unit.
Per unit, yes.
Yep. And I think Dale's recommendation for stalling this into the spring gives us an appropriate time to reapproach that. And
But I'd
present it
also
back
give
to
you
the board.
time to meet with
Yep.
North Oaks and show them where we're coming from, and
And they've got some transition issues now too, so, but yes, we will approach them in that manner.
And at the same time, going forward, our Centerville Road line, that's what we're talking, correct? The Centerville Road line? There's been talk of another municipality or others may want to connect into us, so, I mean, it goes forward to knowing how we're going to handle these into the future and come up with a plan, so that the cost of that are not borne by township
Township,
citizens.
yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just so we're clear, I'm looking at section G, or paragraph G of section 6, and this is charges for maintenance. Simply says, "The charges for maintenance and repairs performed pursuant to this agreement shall be at the rates established in attached addendum 2." That's where you establish all your costs. And addendum 2 is strictly quarterly.
so would this be a one-time quarterly charge, and we'd have to change back to a different billing cycle just to pick up the cost of the monitoring? I'm not sure how we,
You could if you want. I mean, it does, the way your agreement is drafted is the township has the ability, has the power to simply adjust its cost on an annual basis, and adjust the maintenance fees on an annual basis. So you could adjust it up for 1 year and adjust it back down again if you wanted to.
well, so North Oaks could understand it too, so we don't have an issue with the residents seeing this huge jump forever.
Yeah.
Well, and again, in 2017, when you did your last adjustment that I know of your maintenance charges, you did talk to the city first before you made the adjustments. So it was a mutual agreement between the two.
And we can do an amendment to the existing JPA that reflects that.
fact-
That sunsets at the end of the year, essentially, right?
And that's a good point, because the last time when we did the memorandum of understanding, the recommendation from Patrick Kelly was that there should be an amendment done to the agreement.
All right. Any other questions of
The
staff?
only other question I have is this flow monitoring, how often is that done?
Well, I think this will be like, probably every 5 years. because
Every 5 years,
Once
okay.
they add other improvements, we'll probably want to do some more verification of flows.
Okay, but this is not a yearly thing then? Okay.
And for now, it would be just a couple months, correct? When we
Yeah,
do it, it's
yes.
just for 2 months?
Yeah.
All right, so your recommendation is just to table this till spring?
Yes. Actually, the amendment reflecting the rate change will be approached probably,
In December.
yeah.
Oh, all right.
But the actual project itself will stall until probably March or April.
There's nothing in the agreement as to when you have to make the change. It's just says annually, that's all it says, so it strikes me that December would be the right time to do it.
All right, so you're looking for a motion to table upon staff and North Oaks compliance with the GPA and,
Sure.
all right.
Yes, sir.
So I will move to table this motion until staff and North Oaks have their JPA.
Second?
Second?
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Item number 7A, we have a public hearing. This is for improvement 2019-3, general obligation bond funding. I would be looking for a motion to waive the reading, knowing it's been properly published.
I'll move to waive the reading as properly published.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 And I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
I will second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. You taking this one, Patrick? Or are you going to send it over to our
The experts.
resident expert?
Yes. Yeah.
Good evening, I'm Paul Steinman with Baker Tilly, formerly Springstead. We had competitive bids taken in our offices this morning at 10 a.m. for your bonds. You offered $1,305,000 in general obligation improvement bonds. And you had, as you can see, if you want to count all those on the left-hand side there, you had 24 total underwriters that had an interest in buying your bonds. They did roll up into two bids, syndicated under Robert Baird with one bid at 2.01%, and that's that was the best true interest rate, the winning bid. Along with these bids came premium bonds. So premium bonds basically means that you end up getting another source of funds. In this case, it was about $94,000. So we, in working with your staff, had determined that we would downsize the amount you needed to borrow and keep that $94,000. So you end up with exactly the same amount of money you need in your construction fund to do your project. You just borrow less money to get there, which is a good thing. So your ultimately your borrowing this morning was $1,210,000, down from $1,305,000. And I'll just make a couple comments quickly about the rating report. So we worked with your staff, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Christopherson, to have a conference call with Moody's, and they reaffirmed your AA2 rating, which is an excellent bond rating. And I'll just read for a couple of factors from their report. I'll read the positives and the negatives. I have to balance those two things. So the factors here in White Bear Township that could lead to an upgrade: material tax-based growth or economic expansion. Pretty simple. The factors that could lead to a downgrade: deterioration of your tax base, and material declines in your reserves or your liquidity, or increasing your leverage, borrowing too much more money. So those are the three factors that could lead to a downgrade. So the upside, again, is that they reaffirmed your AA2 rating, which is an excellent rating for a city, town of your size. So going back to the bids, again, there were two bids, and the winning bid was from Robert W. Baird and Company at a revised true interest rate after the revisions and the reduction of the par in the amount of 2.02%. And so my recommendation is to award the bonds to Robert W. Baird and Company. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Scott, anything?
We should be very happy with the change in our information this evening.
This is, yes, yeah, and I'll just add to that, thank you, Mr. Christopherson. So when we had made estimates of the rates 4 weeks ago when I was here, we were, the market was aiming lower, but the estimate at that time was 5 basis points, 0.05% lower than today's bids. So basically right on where we were today. So really good bids and a good time to be in the market as an
Is
issue.
this a bit unusual to have this many people interested in this? I mean, there's a number of these.
Yeah, not really. We see a lot more people lining up underneath in the form of a syndicated bid rather than bidding themselves. So Robert W. Baird usually carries a whole big group of people with them. I mean, the point here is all of these folks looked at your bonds and wanted to buy and resell parts of this issue. So that's the positive takeaway.
Well, this looks good for the township.
Very good.
Steve, you got anything?
Nope.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Go forward.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions of staff of Paul, I would look for a motion to open the public comment portion.
I'll move to open the public comment portion of this hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Means if there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this issue, going once, going twice, Hearing none. Look for a motion to close the public portion.
I'll move to close the public portion of the hearing.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, any other comments, questions? All right, we haven't done this in a while, have we, Tom?
In your supplement is
Tom
the
Kelly,
revised,
You gotta introduce yourself, Tom.
Tom Kelly, Finance Officer. In your supplement is the revised resolution with the correct dollar amount. It's the same as what was in your packet with the reduced dollar amount, as Paul had stated that we reduced the bond issue.
All right, so we have to note this when we make our motion, because this has been revised, correct?
Correct.
Sir.
All right, any questions to Tom? No. Thanks, Tom. All right, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve our bond obligation?
I will make the motion to, approve it, based on the bond attorney and staff review and recommendation, adopt the resolution awarding the sale of $1,210,000 general obligation improvement bonds, Series 2019A, fixing their form and specifications, directing their execution and delivery, and providing for their payment.
I will second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, all opposed? That motion carries.
We have a project.
I was going to say,
Sorry, stepped on your touchdown call.
get moving.
Okay. You hear that, Jim? Yep. All right, moving on. Item number 7B. This is also a public hearing for SMC on Centerville Road. Again, I would like to ask for a motion to waive the reading, knowing it's been properly published.
I'll move to waive the reading, knowing it was properly published.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Motion to open the public portion, the public hearing, sorry.
Move to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, Tom.
Yeah, SMC Corporation is located on Centerville Road, just south of Schwing America, not too far south of County Road J and the White Bear Township Theater. They currently have two buildings fronting on Centerville Road, and they've come to the town today to ask approval of several permits to add an additional building in this location on the property. This is 35E right here against Centerville Road. And they're also doing some site master planning with future plans for an office building of approximately 30,000 square feet. And then an addition onto the second building. Those are planned in the future, but what we're focusing on today would be site improvements and construction of a building right here, which is proposed to be 121,728 square feet. A portion of that will be used by Parade Corporation, a business that's in Lino Lakes right now, and would be moved down to this site here. The remainder of the building, as proposed, would be taken by SMC for expansion of their business. Several approvals are required of the town for this particular project, a couple of which require the hearing. Go to a more focused site plan here. Specifically, there's a minor subdivision request which would change the designation of this entire property right here, which is currently considered an outlot. They would be replatting that into a Lot 1, Block 1 of the SMC Second Edition, I believe is the name of it. That requires approval of a minor subdivision. Basically, you're not changing any lot lines, they're just designating this as the Lot 1 versus an outlot. The second permit being requested is a wetland permit. That would be to fill and mitigate wetland on the property. Third request is for a permitted use standards permit, and that would be to permit the site improvements and the building construction. And they also had initially requested a zoning ordinance amendment. I'll go over each of those individually there. Mention the minor subdivision, so again, that is to change Outlot A into Lot 1 for the wetland permit. This is the first time the town has had a wetland permit request in, I think, 10 years is what we looked at. And on the site, they have existing almost 160,000 square feet of area covered by wetland. They would like to fill 63,228 square feet of that wetland, but would be required to replace that at a 1-to-1 ratio, actually a 2-to-1 ratio, by providing additional wetlands, providing wetland buffers, and also they're proposing to purchase wetland credits, which means buying wetland credits from another individual or company who has created wetlands on their property above and beyond what they would have been required to in their development proposal, or simply just created wetland in anticipation of selling the credits to somebody who might need them. So it's a 3-step process.
Tom, just quick, when you talk about buying wetland credit, does it have to be in a certain vicinity? Does it have to be adjacent? Does it have to be,
Yes, it should be within the watershed district,
okay.
and applicants can address the details on that also. So what they're proposing to do, again, filling 63,228 square feet, but creating new wetland, 115,220 square feet in area, and that's on site here. That would be the shaded areas. This is the existing wetland here. I'll jump back to another plan real quick. Showing the location of the wetlands being filled here, 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 a little wetland area in here too. So those are the ones that are proposed to be filled, and then creating these wetlands here. Some upland buffers, which means they could not be developed. They're property adjacent to a wetland that would be designated as a wetland buffer in this area here and here, a little over here also. And then the wetland credit purchase would be the last way to come up with that 2-to-1 wetland ratio. Besides the town's permitting requirements, Velamo, the local watershed district, reviews and approves. They don't approve a permit for the work itself, but they do review the wetland mitigation, and they have accepted that. Also, the Army Corps of Engineers is involved, and they will have to issue a permit for this particular project. I believe those are both still in process. Next permit being requested is the zoning ordinance amendment was requested because they wanted to place the road here and the building a little bit closer to this property line than the ordinance permits. What you have is industrially zoned property in this neighborhood here, but this particular property has an old farmstead up front, so it's utilized as a residence. The back portion is vacant, but it is zoned and long-term was planned for industrial development. But when you have a situation like that, when there's an industrial property abutting a residential property, whether it's zoned or used, that requires increased setbacks for the driveway and for the building. So this was reviewed by the Planning Commission, and they recommended that no zoning ordinance amendment is necessary for this case. And that's primarily because this portion of the property is vacant. So it's really not residentially used. It's not residentially zoned. Therefore, the setbacks that they were proposing did not, in their opinion, require adoption of a zoning ordinance amendment that would change those setbacks to meet what they're proposing. So no action was taken, or the action taken by the Planning Commission was not to recommend any zoning ordinance amendments.
And what were those numbers again for setback?
Yeah, let's see. Well, 15.28 feet is what is proposed for the drive lane, and I believe the requirement, if it was residentially zoned, would be 20 feet. The building, the requirement would be 70 feet, and what they are proposing is 50.85 foot.
But now that it's industrial adjoining them, they're still within the ordinance.
Yeah, the opinion is because this portion of this property is vacant, it's not quote unquote residentially used, it's not residentially zoned, therefore those requirements should not apply. So no change requested to the ordinance, which was what was contemplated. Scott, you look confused.
No, I'm thinking through a question.
Okay,
Thank you
okay.
for reading my face. So you've said a couple times that it's zoned industrial,
Yes.
there's no residential, and therefore the setback doesn't apply. What if there was an industrial building in that lot right now?
Their setback would be 15 feet for either a building or a drive lane.
Okay, and so the setback would be 20 only if it was residential?
Correct.
Okay,
For the drive lane.
yep. Thank you. I'll try and keep my face a little more.
No, that's good, because I...
You don't play poker much, do you?
I was confusing myself as part of this, so I think we're okay. The final permit being requested for this proposal is a permitted use standards permit. The permitted use is for what the town uses to adopt site plan approval, building plan approval. So that's what's requested for this. New building and the site improvements. So along with these plans submitted come with other plans such as a landscaping plan with minimum quantity requirements based on the square footage of the site or the square footage of the buildings, or I'm sorry, the lineal footage of the site or the square footage of the buildings. So they've submitted a landscaping plan that does meet the requirements. Parking requirements based on size of buildings. Those, as proposed, are being met. Historically, we've looked at this. When this property was vacant, you've got the vacant, well, when it was vacant, you've got vacant property to the south of here, and again, the residential property in the middle here. Long-term, we had looked at maybe constructing a public looped road through this property, looping around and connecting back to Centerville Road. That would have gone through the North Oaks Company property to the south. SMC would prefer not to do that at this point. They would like to keep this road private, which is currently private. Now, when this was constructed, it was constructed to township standards as a public road, but remains private. We had them build them to those standards, again, in anticipation that long-term this would be a public road. So that, with this proposal, is off the table. It's a cul-de-sac on a private drive, which would stop right here.
The township does not maintain it.
Township does not maintain it.
So that won't be part of the pavement management plan.
No pavement management issue there.
The initial plan showed some grading in this corner of the property going off-site onto the Siebenoller property next door. The updated plan does not show any grading off-site now. It does show an arrow. I'll put this plan up. They does show that in event of a 100-year storm event, that water could potentially, what it's planned to do is run along the curb right in here and then end in these stormwater treatment ponds. But in the event of a very large rainfall, some of the water could overflow the curb right here and flow south onto the property. However, it's designed so if this happens, the current runoff on the property that's happening just as it is today, undeveloped, it would not be any more than that. And it cannot be any more than that. So, designed to meet stormwater requirements. So that was cleaned up and no grading is proposed off-site there. Originally a retaining wall was planned there. Both of those have come out of the plan.
What did you say at the end? After it turns the corner, you're saying if it overflowed, then your voice dropped out. I didn't hear you.
Natural drainage flows this way. In the event of a large storm, it could overtop the curb and flow onto your property, but it would not do it on a rate greater than what's currently happening today in an undeveloped state. That's how the plan was designed.
Ray,
Yeah.
we'll give you a chance, Ray, to comment on all that for you, okay?
Okay, so, plan revision, this plan represents the revised plan that was reviewed by the Planning Commission in August. They took 2 meetings, they actually met on site the second time. A couple days after the original Planning Commission meeting, came back to the office and made recommendations. They did recommend approval of the wetland permit, the permitted use standards permit, and the subdivision, but again, recommended no action on the zoning ordinance amendment that was requested. Since that time, we've been having some discussions with engineering, and there are a few engineering-related items that are still to be addressed. Primarily in this area right here, we're struggling a little bit with the setback. As you can see, structures, road being proposed to be constructed up to this point right here. A retaining wall is planned right at the edge of the wetland, with the new wetland being created around the existing wetland. Now, when you have a structure, you should have a 20-foot setback between that structure and the edge of a wetland. This was not designed with a 20-foot buffer. It's just upland, retaining wall, dropping into new wetland. So we've been struggling a little bit how to process that. Should it be allowed? Should we require that setback? Velamo has reviewed this. Velamo is the local water management organization, or the wetland authority in this case. They have reviewed the wetland mitigation plan, and they've accepted it, is my understanding. So they're okay with what's proposed here. But
And this is still going to be reviewed by you said the Army Corps of Engineers?
Army Corps of Engineers must submit a permit, and I don't believe that's been.
Okay.
Okay, so it's under review.
Velamos, you said, you believe is that, I guess, they have accepted it as?
They've accepted the wetland delineation and replacement. Yeah.
We'll give you just a minute. When we're ready with Tom, we'll
Keep
we'll have
the
you come
answer
up.
ready.
Okay, so I guess in summary, Planning Commission has reviewed, recommended approval of permits. Typically, when that happens, the staff puts together a zoning certificate, assuming that the town board, following the Planning Commission's recommendation, would adopt or approve the various permits. With a couple of outstanding issues, we did not prepare that document tonight, so staff's opinion is we're just not quite ready to say if we're going to approve this thing, to approve it tonight. But we think within the next couple of weeks, we'll have everything ironed out.
All right, Jim, do you want to address some of your concerns, or?
Yeah, I think, well, Mr. Chair, members of the board, we got some components, both just design-wise, that we need to have addressed for the storm pipes and some of the drainage. Also with SEH's review, there's more hydrology information that needs to be done. Overall, probably our biggest item is the buffer requirement that's not being, through this design, is not meeting our requirement for that. So we have.
The buffer you're talking about is for the buffer up by the new wetland?
Correct. The new wetland is going immediately, is increased immediately up to the retaining wall, and then the drive lane and the parking to the north. And obviously, there's a list of permits that need to be achieved through MnDOT, Ramsey County, Army Corps of Engineers, utility extensions. As I said, SEH has also put together theirs. We have storm sewer was designed through a 5-year design, and our requirement is through a 10-year. And then we have some filtration basin design items that we would want to address. But overall, probably the major component of are we meeting township requirements would be that there's a zero buffer along that entire stretch. And it has a retaining wall that ranges from 3 feet to almost 6 feet along that whole stretch, which we discussed would not be what we would want as a township road, but that appears to not be even anything proposed. We would recommend that this would never become a public road due to this design.
Part of the reason for the buffer is just, part of it's for just snow plowing, so you're not actually rolling salt and sand also into that pond, or?
I think there's a lot of components into it, and
Okay.
yes.
All right, any other questions of Tom or Jim?
I did have one question on, and I noticed that there was supposed to be, there will be a continuation for 6 months on the hearing, and then we may have to continue it again because of the wetlands.
What happens with wetlands is it's an amendment to the zoning ordinance. All wetlands have an wetland overlay district established over those. So what you're doing when you fill a wetland is you're changing the zone. So it's a rezoning. So the wetland area that's remains as wetland continues to be zoned wetland overlay, but the area that's been filled is no longer a wetland. So that's a change to the zoning district or a zoning ordinance amendment. So that's how the town has processed historically wetland permits. That makes sense?
Well, do you think between staff and the applicants, all this can be resolved in 2 weeks for next, the next town board meeting?
I think so, yes. It's a 3-week, I believe, separation.
Yeah, there's 3 weeks between
Well,
now and the
I
next one,
noticed that the TKDA letter was dated like, what, last Thursday? Have the applicants even had a chance to respond or look at it? So that would be one of my questions. And the SEH I see is from August, so.
Well, that, and are we running into the 60-day timeline?
We're okay until the August meeting on the 60-day timeline.
October.
It's September.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I know the applicants are here. I don't know if you have a group effort here, or if somebody wants to speak about some of these concerns, or?
We want to let anyone else speak in advance so we can respond to those comments.
You can come up to the podium, just introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, supervisors, staff. We've been working on this property for some time. My name's Clark Wickland with
sorry.
Alliant Engineering.
What was your name?
Clark Wickland. I participated in this process from its beginning. I actually participated in potential development plans for the property back in 2007, I believe, for another developer that was looking at it, so I do have a little bit of history on the property. As Tom had shared, there's really only 2 items, as far as I'm aware, that require some discussion, and the one I think that Mr. Studinsky touched on is the buffer to the wetland. I can assure you we discussed that matter at length with the Army Corps, with the DNR, or Bowser, also with VLAMO, who has permit authority for enforcing WACA, and they accepted that as a condition, since there wouldn't be opportunity to essentially mow or get down into the wetland area where you would typically have a buffer. The Army Corps' or VLAMO's desire, the Board of Managers' desire, is to do as much on-site mitigation as possible, and that is part of the reason they were willing to accept that. There is an option of purchasing more off-site credits, but again, VLAMO is not in favor of that. They would prefer that it all be done on-site. So that's the reason for what that is, and again, it was discussed at length. VLAMO, I believe, issued a letter to the township just recently on the 13th of September. They've essentially approved all of the project for rate control, water quality, infiltration, or volume reduction, and wetland impacts, wetland mitigation. So they're satisfied with the project, and we worked with them for a period of about 3 to 4 months. We did speak with the Army Corps today. They are expected to issue their I forget the name of the letter.
Individual permit.
Pardon me?
It's called an individual permit.
Individual permit yet this month. So I'll assure you, in terms of projects of this nature, what we experienced with the Army Corps was very favorable, and too with Bowser. So I would say this application's in a very good position with the other 3 agencies. So I guess I would say that in regards to wetlands. You know, in regards to the overall project, I don't want to get into too much here in a narrative, but the applicant, you know, there are more wetlands on this property because of a ditch being filled back in the early 90s. They've accepted the fact that there's now as many as, you know, twice as many wetlands on here. They didn't ask for an exemption. They didn't ask for anyone to take care of the issue. This application proposed to provide for it, and they are providing for the expense of that. So I think that's very generous of the applicant, not pursuing other options. Regards to the review memos, I got all kinds of exhibits here and stuff, but I'm not going to put them up there unless you guys ask for clarity. Regards to the review memos of TKDA, yeah, they issued a 3-page comment letter. A handful of them are statements. The one is really, that we discussed with Tom today, is the buffer matter. And what does the board, or what does the township want to do? Like I say, the other 3 agencies were satisfied with what was proposed. I didn't see anything more on the TKDA memo that was of significance. We did meet with the township today to discuss these items. So I don't know how much of this to really make reference to. There was an SEH memo also that spoke of, I think they had 5 review comments. 2 of them are pertaining to the MP-SWIP permit, things we have to do to get that permit. That's regulated by the state. We'll do that. They speak to wetlands, but they do speak to water quality, which was the basis for their recommendation to not approve, and they want an updated hydrologic model of a condition with a certain tweaking to the modeling. Of all my projects I've got going this year, or probably 3 years prior, there will probably be no project with greater water quality than this project. And it's not because the applicant said, you know, do something extra. We just can't get water off of this site. So I don't want to fool anyone to tell you we're going to, you know, because of X, Y, and Z, we thought to do more. There's just a practical difficulty to get water off of the site. And when water sits on a property for a longer period of time, the quality of what comes off is better. So the modeling will show that. There's no issues with the water quality. Again, that's been accepted by VLAMO. They were satisfied with it for just that reason. I recited a few things here. I feel like I'm rambling. I don't know how much more to add. I think I'll stop myself and answer any questions anyone should have.
Steve, you have anything?
No, I'm, well, why don't we tell I listen a little more?
Pat? All right, thanks, Clark.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I'd look for a motion to open it up for public comment.
I'll move to open it for public comment.
I will second.
Motion's made second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, I know the neighbor, Mr. Stephenauer, if you'd like to come up, state your name and your address, and
Yes, I'm Ray Siebenaler. I own the 10 acres just south of the new development there. And you have approval from the Planning Commission, but that was predicated on putting a retaining wall where our border is. And that just disappeared. There's no retaining wall. And,
retaining wall where?
you want to show that? Right in that corner, and until it starts to rise coming up. And it just disappeared. They promised it at the Planning Commission meeting. Our issue is that we don't want to take the excess runoff if this system doesn't hold. In other words, what they're banking on, how high is that curb that goes along the parking lot? 5 inches? 6?
5, 6 inch.
5, 6 inches. So if in a 100-year storm that doesn't make that right angle turn coming down that hill to head out to that pond, it comes our way. And they keep saying, we're not going to shed any more water than was shed before. Well, we're not getting water. We haven't gotten water since the last development, period. And that's the truth. Now, I don't see how they cannot. All right, the other thing is, the elevation, can you point to that, Tom? The elevation of where that curb is to where the lay of our land is, I believe, 7 feet. And that has to drop 7 feet in just a tad over 15 feet of distance. So it has to drop 1 foot for every 2 feet that they have available. So that's going to be a very sharp drop. So if you have any water come over that curb, it's going to cut out that side hill. And then it's going to cut out us too. I don't know how you can decide on a plan that's going to stop water with a 6-inch curb on a 100-year storm, except if Karen and I accept the fact that we're going to take their excess runoff on a 100-year storm. How many times do we have 100-year storms? We have 100-year storms all the time. In fact, in August, we had 5.5 inches of rain. In September, it was followed up with 3.3 inches of rain. Now, if all those ponds and holding ponds were filled by the 5.5-inch rain, or 5.5-inch rain, how much water would be shed on the 3.3 next time? And to say nothing of a 100-year storm. Neither of them are 100-year storms. 6.6 within 24 hours is a 100-year storm. And can you imagine a 100-year storm turning a right angle on a 6-inch curb? It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And the other plan had an arrow. Well, maybe it's still there. It's still there. Has an arrow, and then if you look at the description of things, it says oh geez, what is it called? Excess outflow, emergency outflow location. We're the emergency outflow location. And how many times is a 6-inch, 5 or 6-inch curb going to hold a rainfall, whether it's a 100-year storm or not? When it comes down and makes a right-angle turn to head north there. I don't believe that's going to work. And they promised that there would be a retaining wall put in there to mitigate that. It's gone.
Does the retaining wall start at that 6-inch curb and get taller going that way?
Again, there's no retaining wall proposed.
I thought there was. That's what I thought I heard.
Further north, yeah. This is where the retaining wall is up.
Oh,
By the wetland.
Right, I thought there was one along that property line.
The original plan did show a little retaining wall here.
No, the original, we were grading onto a site, and since then, we've added a retaining wall just north of the property line. And we're about 3.5 feet.
So there is a retaining wall proposed in here.
There wasn't one before, but there is now.
It's clearly showing top of wall elevation there depicted, is there?
Really?
I can assure you.
Oh, so there is a retaining wall.
Yes, sir. Before there.
Now you see it, now you don't, now you see it.
Before there wasn't one, but now there is.
Yeah.
We're still talking on, next to their property, so.
Those little plans are just so hard to
Yeah,
read.
you can't.
This is 1 inch and 50 scale. So this grayish area is that. So actually the drainage, things are so flat here in the truck dock that it's not gonna just follow the curb. There's gonna be sheet drainage through this whole area, which is probably about 80 feet. And we'll drain down towards that infiltration.
And so,
basin.
no, one of these lines indicates a retaining wall.
Well, you can see the top and bottom of the wall. So this gray here is the wall itself.
What is it at? 929?
Well, here's the top and bottom, so it's 3.5 feet high here. So it starts at 0, 3.5, we have 3 foot and a half.
Well, before we get into too much detail, Mr. Siebenauer, is this your only concern about the plan? Is this one drainage issue?
Well, yeah.
Because I think, obviously, you could meet with these folks at a later date and make sure you guys are both clear on what's going on, so you're comfortable with what they're doing. 'Cause obviously, we're not going to be able to.
Setbacks are not a problem for us because it
Okay.
applies to us too.
So, I mean, if that's your main
Ours was
issue,
developed,
sure, I think you folks can make sure that you guys are on the same page and you're comfortable with what's happening. mean, we want to make sure, normally, almost all our developments, water can't leave the property without designating where it's going, and obviously, we don't want to flood a neighbor, so we want to make sure that you're comfortable with what they're doing.
Yeah. Not comfortable yet.
Well, but if it's a bunch of details that we're obviously not going to resolve right now, but if you're comfortable with the final details of what they're doing,
What is your disposition on approval tonight?
well, it sounds right now that we're not going to approve it tonight. We'll probably move it on for at least 2 weeks,
Right.
or whenever our next board meeting is.
3 weeks.
Right, 3 weeks.
Right.
That okay with you?
Sure.
All right,
Great, thank you.
no problem. Any other comments for this application? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
Second that?
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, if there are no other questions of staff, town engineer, or applicants, I think I would be looking for a motion to table this for our next, when is that?
October 7th, I believe.
Is it October 7th?
I believe so.
October 7th.
Okay.
And I think it sounds like all these issues can be resolved by then. Board comfortable with that?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, can I just ask for a clarification from Tom? So if we don't have the buffer, do we have to take action? Or do we have a decision to be made tonight to either have a buffer or not have a buffer?
Well, it's up for discussion tonight, clearly, and we'll have to take action recognizing a variance from that section
Would
of
that
the
be
ordinance.
part of the zoning ordinance, still, Tom?
It's part of the stormwater management ordinance, ordinance number 87, so it's not the zoning ordinance.
See, I don't think we're prepared to start making amendments to a,
No, I don't think
not tonight. But I think you're gonna have to draft something for us to look at for 3 weeks.
But so, I mean, that's our big item is, are we using the buffer or are we not? And that's, sure.
All right, we'll open up just up from,
We'll open it, just for
I'm Tony Castor. I'm a wetland scientist with Alliant Engineering in Minneapolis. I did the wetland delineation and prepared the wetland permit applications that were reviewed by VLAMO and the Corps. Just two things I want to point out. One, part of the motivation for the retaining wall is we have wetlands right up to the edge in 2 locations. We wanted to minimize our wetland impacts by having a retaining wall instead of having a area fill into the wetland that would result in more impacts.
You're talking on the north part,
Let me show you.
just so we're all on the same page. Okay.
So there's an area of wetland
Yes.
here, and then along here. This gray is existing wetland. So the retaining wall, the intent is to minimize our impact. So the VLAMO and the Corps, they're looking, as part of their review, is how have we gone about trying to minimize our wetland impact. So we accomplished that by putting a retaining wall along there. This shows very clearly now the gray here and here. These are our existing wetlands. This green, these are our mitigation wetlands. So the other point I want to point out here, additionally, our retaining wall here, this allows us to maximize our amount of mitigation we're creating on site. Now, typically when people think of wetlands, we're thinking of like cattails and standing water. The reality is that the green will actually be what we call a wet meadow. So it'll be saturated to the surface at its wettest, but it won't typically have standing water on it. And so it'll be grasses, sedges, wildflowers, but you're not going to have, it's not going to just, the retaining wall isn't going to fall off into standing water. The blue areas, we're designing those to be, have about 6 inches of standing water. But the remainder of the site, again, will be saturated to the surface at its wettest, but typically not going to have standing water. And so I don't know if that may be something to consider in terms of what is this going to look like when it actually gets constructed. The reason why most of this is going to be just saturated to the surface is that's the type of wetland that we're impacting. And so we're trying to replace are impacted wetlands with the same type of wetland on site.
Well, the reason I was concerned is, I mean, originally, it sounded like there was a pond right next to the road, 6 feet down, and a car could just drop off into.
Yeah.
So
And that-
you're saying most of the water would never be more than 6, 8 inches deep?
In these blue areas, yeah, 6 inches deep. The green areas, typically you never have standing water. And under normal, it's real wet in the spring, you have saturation to the surface in the spring. We tend to have coarser soils, a little more sandy soils there, so that water table tends to drop more later in July and August. And so you have a rain event, water comes up to the surface, but there's just not enough area here to have standing water out there.
I was looking at it more as a public safety issue, that if somebody jumps that curb, it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, they'll get stuck in the mud, but they won't be
Okay.
underwater, so.
All right, did I clarify for you guys? All right, thanks, Tony. All right, so it looks like I would be looking for a motion to table for a continuance till October 7th.
Table everything, all 3 points. Just table the whole topic.
Yep, yeah, this whole, well, actually, it would be a continuance of the public hearing, correct?
Correct.
So I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing till the meeting on October 7th to discuss the SMC 5800, 5855 Centerville Road project.
I will second that.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we'll see you folks back here. All right, moving on. Item number 8A, we have a couple of finance officer items. First one is the 2020 preliminary tax levy.
Okay, Mr. Chair and Board, staff has been hard at work on the budget. As you know, the first part of the budget, town residents did approve a preliminary levy at the March annual meeting of just over $4,300,000. Since then, we've done some adjustments, and we met in a workshop with the board to get the tax levy down even lower. So tonight, you have before you a resolution approving our preliminary levy at $4,150,925. And again, once that preliminary levy is set, we can always lower the levy, but we cannot exceed what is approved tonight. The $4,150,925 has 3 different parts. It's got our general property tax levy of $3,781,647. Then we have to add in our fiscal disparities amount of $303,886. And then, based on accepting tonight's bond resolution, we will have a 2020 debt levy of $65,392, and we haven't had a debt levy the last 3-4 years. So that's what makes up the $4,150,925. Last year, or for 2019, our preliminary levy was $3,786,589. So this is about a 9% increase from last year's preliminary levy. And our final 2019 levy was $3,403,055. So it's quite a bit higher than the final, which is typical, not so much on the preliminary. And with that, I guess I'll just take any questions you may have.
Tom, you broke the preliminary amount into 3 sections, the property tax, fiscal disparities, and the debt levy. I'm guessing, and I know you've also said it can go down as we continue to refine numbers. I'm guessing the debt levy is not going to change.
It probably will, about $2,400 based on the new numbers we got tonight.
$2,400. Okay,
So,
good, good. Let's keep going.
That's down, right?
That's down.
Down, yes.
How about the fiscal disparities?
Fiscal disparities we're locked into.
So that's not gonna
So
change?
that's not gonna change.
All right, so then any other adjustments would be coming out of the property tax?
Correct.
Okay.
And obviously, that $65,000 worth of debt levy is what percent of that 9 that it went up from last year? So if that wasn't there, if we weren't bonding, we'd be back down around 7?
Yeah, you'd be probably, from last year's preliminary levy, yeah, probably down around 7%, 7.5%.
Well, just so the residents understand that part of the reason of this jump is road improvements.
Yep.
Yep.
And we're gonna see that every year now for a while, so.
Yep.
Any other questions to Tom?
And I do understand that there's no delay on this, because we have to have this ready by the end of this.
Yes, we have to adopt a preliminary levy and have it certified to Ramsey County by September 30th. If we don't, it defaults to our final levy of 2019.
Avoid that.
Ooh, there's some
So-
pressure.
So that's why we need this approved tonight, since this is your last meeting before the end of the month.
And basically, going forward, the most likely is just fine tuning of things that may be changed, but there's no wholesale things to take out of the proposed budget.
The only thing we can really tinker with that would get us a substantial reduction is our equipment rental fees and some of the transfers we're doing for road improvements, for seal coating, that sort of thing. They're gonna have the biggest impact or bang for your buck, if you will, on the levy. Everything else is just kind of tinkering a few thousand here, a few thousand there.
Well, I think the last meeting, when we talked about this, I think Scott made a very good point, that we don't want to kick things down the road that were going to ultimately cost us more by delays. So I'm comfortable with where we are for tonight.
I think we beat it up last meeting.
We? All right, thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. So,
Well, I would be looking for a motion to adopt the resolution for the preliminary.
all right, I'll make a motion based on the finance officer's review and recommendation, adopt the resolution adopting the preliminary amount to be raised by property taxes for the year 2020.
I will second that.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. All right, moving on. 8B, the 2020 utility rates.
Again, the Utility Commission reviewed the utility rates over the summer. They approved the rates that I'm presenting tonight at their July meeting. Basically, we use last year's water usage to kind of calculate out what our water usage will be for the various volume rates. And we actually lowered them by 8% with the new meters going in. And then the sewer rates, that is also affected by the new meters. So we base the sewer rates on the water use in the winter quarter, January through March. And so plugging in those changes and then some of our projected capital improvements and increases in operating costs, we came up with the rates that you would see on page 133. Basically, what we have is the water base rate would be increased from $21.25 to $21.75 per quarter. The tiered rates, the two lower tiers would not change at all. They would remain at, from 0 to 20,000 gallons per thousand would stay at $2.35. 20,100 or 20,001 gallon to 32,000 gallons would stay at $2.60 per thousand. And then the 32,001 gallon to 44,000 gallons would increase 2 cents to $3.40. And then anybody that uses over 44,000 gallons, those rates are being increased from $5.75 per thousand to $6 per thousand. Likewise, the irrigation rates are changing from, for residential, they would be $3 and they were $3.38. They will now go up to $3.40. And then the commercial is currently at $4.20 per thousand, would go up to $4.25. The sanitary sewer rates, we're still playing a little bit of catch-up on those, but the base rate for residential properties is being increased from $51 per quarter to $52, and then the commercial base rate is going from $45.15 to $46. The volume rate for residential is increasing $1 from $4 to $5 per thousand, and then the commercial is going from $10 per thousand to $12.50. Likewise, our storm water rates are still playing catch up. We've got a lot more storm projects that are going in, and to cash flow those, we are going to need additional funds. So currently, they are $21 per quarter, and we are proposing those to increase to $22.50. And so, again, the Utility Commission reviewed these. This will allow us to cash flow the next few years and actually, hopefully, start leveling off some of the increases for the sanitary sewer and the stormwater into the future, much like the water rates are starting to level off a little bit. So tonight, I'm asking you to approve these rates. If approved, they would go into effect with that first quarter billing in 2020, so the January, February, March billing.
Scott, you sat in on utility.
I did.
The rationales all make sense?
Yes, I will say that in the past, we used to go back and forth with Tom a lot when I was on the utility board. I won't say that the group has softened up on him, but I think that they have they feel more comfortable with the logic that's being used, and as he keeps saying, the cash flow that is projected. It had been a couple years of playing catch up, and also I think helping is syncing up the cycle of the billings with the calendar and being able to see what's been pumped versus what's been sold, and a lot of changes which I know Tom and Dale have been coordinating quite a bit on as well.
Well, and part of this has got a lot to do with trying to conserve water. We're only raising water rates for excessive users to try to curb that, to meet our obligations with what's going on now. And we're also just trying to catch up on those depreciation numbers. So I know it's heartburn for some people, because it seems to me we always keep creeping these things up, but the cost of water is getting expensive.
Well, maintaining the infrastructure really is expensive.
Yes.
And we've had some conversations recently about hookup charges, and it's to help spread the cost of maintaining all the infrastructure, which is a lot of moving parts.
Steve, got anything?
No, I think it makes sense, unfortunately.
All right, thanks, Tom. All right, so we would be looking at a motion to approve the rate hikes.
So, based on Utility Commission and Finance Officer review and recommendation, approve the utility rate changes as outlined in the attached memo. That's a motion. I didn't state that.
All right, motion's made. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. Moving on.
Thanks, Tom.
Town engineer, we have item 8C is well number 5, seepage pond improvements.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Public Works has been working with us through this process. We've been working with the MPCA. on the seepage pond that's behind well 5 out on Otter Lake Road. Actually, at this point, we have minimized our use of the pond so that we can perform this work and not have it full of water. We went out for quotes. We received 2 back from many applicants that took out the plans. Joe Janetta and Sons was the low bidder. They have performed work on this site in the past and throughout the township over the years. Their bid was $26,495. That work includes testing of the material, removal of the material, and to an allowed land site for that material. So there's a lot of testing and paperwork and confirming that it is done appropriately, and we will work with the MPCA throughout all of this activity. So tonight, we are looking for 3 motions: to receive the quotes, to award the project to Joe Janetta, and then to authorize TKDA for the construction observation and MPCA coordination for amount not to exceed $2,750 on this project, based upon discussions with the contractor and with staff. Everybody's wants to get moving on this so we can get the work done before weather turns south, and we can get our facility functioning at full capacity that it is designed for.
We'll have to go through this again in about 3 to 5 years?
We are looking at options. Overall, the well itself is meant to be our backup system. This year, we have run it due to other quality issues at the maximum we have been able to run it. So we are clearly and by far running it an excessive amount to what we plan to be using it for. I don't know if Dale has any additional comments. We do see that we would not have, this would be the most frequent that we should have to be cleaning this. This is going to be our first time doing this with the facility functioning in its new capacity.
Jim, does this project have anything to do with the work Public Works is doing along Otter Lake Road now?
That is for the lift station activity, so.
How close are they connected there? I mean, it's-
You can throw a ball.
Well, if our residents have been driving by thinking we're doing something with it already, I want to make it very clear that it's a separate project.
And we have nothing to do with across the street.
We're not sending sewage into this seepage pond. I think that's clear.
Yeah.
That's,
So yes,
they're two different projects doing two different things.
Correct, they're just very close to each other.
All right, any questions, Jim? Dale, you got anything to add?
No, I just concur with Jim. We're just using the plant at capacity due to some other water quality concerns, and probably will be for a little bit longer here until we some options.
And obviously, we've dealt with Janetta and Sons quite a bit, so we're familiar with the contractor.
Yep, correct.
Have you ever dealt with this new look contracting?
Yes, not in the
Township.
township, but in other areas.
Where are they from? I mean, their bid is so
They should be called overpriced contracts.
overpriced. Yeah. Are they,
There, let's say that there are bidders out there that if they get the project for the amount they're giving us, they would be happy to do the job.
in other words, they got plenty of work and they just put a
Yeah,
bid in?
this was a,
Okay.
all right, that it? So you want this motion broken down into 3 separate actions here?
I mean, they could all
It's just 2.
be one.
They only had
Three.
Receive
To
and award.
receive, award, and
And we got
authorize.
authorized TK.
Oh, yeah, that.
We can skip that part, that's okay.
All right.
To give him authority on this?
I'll move based on the town engineer review and recommendation to receive the quotes.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll move to award the quote to the lowest responsible company, Janetta and Sons, in the amount of $26,495.
Second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the third?
I'll move to authorize TKDA to perform the construction observation process and the MPCA coordination activities for an amount not to exceed $2,750, knowing that funding is from the water operating funds.
I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. All right, moving on. Item 8D, Town Planner, we have a minor subdivision request.
Involving a couple of properties near the SMC site, County Road J, I-35E, Centerville Road is just over here, so this is Imagine Theater, formerly White Bear Township Theater. This property right here. This is Schwing America's property right here. Looking at a minor subdivision between the two parcels. The theater parking lot right here and the extent of their property. This is a section line, so county section map line, so ignore that. It doesn't mean anything except on the mapping part. And Northwood Entertainment, Imagine Theater, looking at purchasing this little strip of property leading to the Township Theater sign right here, which has been in place since the building was constructed, the theater building was constructed. They utilized an easement from Schwing America to access the site, the sign. My understanding is that MnDOT has a problem with maintaining of signs that are not owned by the property owner, or something to that effect. Anyway, what this has done is the theater is looking at purchasing this strip of property right here, so they have owned access to their sign and then can maintain it. It's a minor subdivision, a lot line rearrangement. Basically, this is 0.61 acres, this piece of property, and it's a minor subdivision that has been reviewed by the Planning Commission. This is the formal paperwork for the subdivision, so you can see the location of the sign right here. Again, the parking lot was over here. Lot line, creating a new lot, this configuration right here. So reviewed by the Planning Commission, recommended for approval of a minor subdivision.
Did they have just an agreement with Schwing previously to cross their property to maintain the sign?
I believe there was an easement.
Yeah, if you'd like to come up, introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My name is Dale Hyder with Northwoods Entertainment. So the sign's been there for 24 years. We wanted to take it down and change it and improve it. And we found out that that's an illegal sign, and it's been illegal for 24 years because it's considered a billboard and it's too close to the on-ramp. So to make it a legal sign, the property that it sits on must be continuous with where our building is. So therefore, where we had the easement just to get to the sign to work on it, we now need to purchase the land to make it a legal sign, or we must remove the sign completely to abide by MnDOT's rules.
Do you have to relocate it at all to make it more? It can still go where it is.
It's just going to stay right where it's at. It's just that now the property is going to be adjoining, continuous of our building property.
Height, everything else stays the same?
Stays the same.
Questions? Comments?
I was gonna say, as long as it's an improvement to what's there today, because it's been requested many times that it's an eyesore.
Yep. Poles are going to be painted black, sanded down and painted black. The whole top section is going to come off with a new square section coming on that says Imagine Entertainment with an electronic reader board section below it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, before you adopt this resolution, I have a question for Tom. Is it a condition that they combine this with their existing tax parcel and make it one tax parcel?
Whoa. I don't know the answer to that, Chad.
I'd recommend that you make that a condition of approval, that this be combined with the existing property to create one tax parcel. Otherwise, once you approve this, you're creating a whole separate tax parcel.
And a landlocked parcel.
Oh, yeah.
And that as well, true.
Good point.
I forgot about the landlocked part, too. So that'd be my only suggestion.
Chad, this is why we pay you the big bucks.
For the minutia, right?
Yeah. All right, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I would be looking for a motion for the minor subdivision request along with our attorney's addition.
I'll move based on the planning commission and staff review and recommendation to approve the minor subdivision request for Northwoods Entertainment LLC, 1180 County Road J/Swing America, 5900 Centerville Road, to allow construction of a new pylon sign with the change as recommended by attorney for the single tax parcel, I guess is what you want to call it.
Combining to make one
Combine
tax parcel.
into one tax parcel.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, all opposed? All right, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
We love your theater, though. It's,
Yeah, amen. Great addition.
Hopefully you'll see the sign this fall, before November, because the sign has been constructed and sitting in storage for 12 months already, believe it or not.
Wow.
terrific.
Thanks.
Does it have to meet our science?
All right,
ordinances?
moving on. We have a Public Works Director item, 8E, ball field groomer.
Yes.
Is that you, Dale?
Yes, it is. So, a little background on our ball field maintenance. We've got 6 ball fields in the township at 3 different locations. They're at Poor Lakes, Columbia, and Longville. And in order to maintain those ag lime fields, both during the season and after, the Public Works Department is looking to purchase a ball field drag, equipment to drag that does all the, it's a multi-use piece of equipment. It's a unique piece of equipment. It's a single vendor that provides it. ABI Force is the manufacturer. It's a unique ball field groomer, multi-use tool with many optional attachments. They not only can drag the ball fields for daily preparation and maintenance, but it's a changeable tool attached so they can be used for cutting out material, aeration, edging, seeding, and the ability to be equipped with a laser-ready technology to reestablish the grades on the slope on the ball fields, the ag line portion, so it drains properly. A little bit background with that maintenance since the inception of or the development of the Poor Lakes Park. It originally had been done by Field of Dreams, was a company that the township had contracted with to maintain. They have since went out of business. Then we ended up looking for another source, and we ended up hiring White Bear Lake District School District 624. Their maintenance team has been doing the field prep for our ball fields. They don't necessarily drag them off season, spring and fall, and really to keep the ag lime is great fertilizer. So everything grows. Weeds grow great, everything. So the reason I'm here tonight is to look for the board to approve this purchase of this ABI Force unit. And it is the only manufacturer that has this type of ball field groomer. It's a stand-up groomer, and it has a lot of abilities where other groomers are single use, or maybe 1 or 2 options you can do. You can drag, you can aerate, but you can't really do all these other things, cut and reestablish the edges, the ball field edges and whatnot. So the staff had gone and demoed the unit at the city of Chanhassen, It performed great. They're impressed with all its abilities. They are looking to purchase a second one, the city of Chanhassen. Of course, they're much larger, have more fields, so it makes sense. But we're looking, so there are several other communities that they are called for references, and they all the force performed beyond their expectations. So what the staff is recommending is to purchase the 2019 ABI Force Z23 SLT, laser ready with attachments, from the supplier, ABI. They are the only manufacturer of this type of ball field groomer, and the purchase would be for $27,801, which includes freight charges. To back up even some more, the transition to staff doing ball field maintenance has been something I've been trying to implement or working to implement, but just a matter of getting staff, trained, look at the types of equipment, and then and also to reduce the cost to the district for that annual maintenance. Now, what I'm suggesting this next year is a transition where they do less of the maintenance, we start doing more of it, and then ultimately, maybe the next year, we just take over the field prep and for games and work with, it will require some working with the district to get the scheduling. Typically, we don't have that schedule. We can always get that, and our staff would have to arrange to set the fields up, chalk the lines, chalk the lines, batter's box, all that good stuff. And we can trailer unit around to the other two sites, just like the district does with their equipment. So again, the staff is recommending the purchase from ABI for the Force Z23 SLT and the attachments for $27,801 from ABI Attachments Incorporated. So that is the recommendation by staff for this ball field groomer.
Yeah, I happen to have, actually GT showed me this thing when you guys were demoing it. Is the one I saw, is that the one you're looking to purchase?
Yeah.
Do they, I mean, it's not very big. In fact, it's like a three-wheeler, but.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The one you seen was the, I want to say the Toro sand
Okay, so
groomer.
this is a different manufacturer?
Yeah, this is a different manufacturer. Yep. That sand groomer's got a, outer body blade and drag, but it's not, it doesn't have all the abilities here. This machine has a lot more abilities.
What's the lifespan of this piece of
I was
equipment?
going to ask, what's the lifespan?
Well, based on the use, we have only 6 fields, I would say we'd have it for 10 years.
I mean, if we're saving $9,500 a year, it only takes 3 years to catch up on the cost of the piece of equipment. Obviously, that doesn't include our staff time.
Staff time, yeah.
So the aerator part of this,
Yes.
you can use that to aerate the outfields? Is that what
You
you're?
could use the outfield and the grass infields, because it's a smaller area. This works in a much more confined space than the big aerator that we
So
use.
you use a big aerator out on the soccer fields or?
Yes.
the pole
This
line?
this would be to accommodate soccer fields. and
More
stuff
for
like that.
the infield
Yeah,
aeration?
grass infields, et cetera. Yeah.
But I noticed you're getting a removable broadcast spreader with it.
It just happens to be one of the attachments.
Actually, you know what? That's a pretty good price for instead of what we were looking at, what you guys want to
Right.
buy.
Right. I figured you'd pick up on that.
No, from my perspective, it pays for itself in the long run.
No, and I think too, and like I said, we can use it for more than 4 months out of the year.
Yes.
I mean, and it's got some versatility that we're not getting from the school district right now, so.
Right.
I guess all around, this one makes sense. I'll give you that, Dale. This one makes sense. I've always been hard on Dale, every time he wants to spend money, but,
Not every time, most.
oh, yeah, okay.
Majority.
Wait till the next one.
All right.
Yeah, I'd be looking for a motion.
right.
Mr. Chair, thank you. As part of the motion, you should note that this is a unique piece of equipment and that there are no other sources of bidders for such a piece of equipment.
Yeah, I
It's
think,
normally under statute you're required to obtain more than one bid.
Dale, you brought that up, didn't you? Oh, is there, because it is only a unique vehicle too, do we have to have special insurance on this thing? Does it come with any training to use it?
Yeah, the sales rep will come out. and-
Okay.
Yeah. And we can always go to the other communities that have it too. There's lots of options, but the guys are really comfortable with its operation. And
Okay, did you get that recommendation from?
I think I could mess it up, but I'll try.
Okay.
I'll move based on staff review and recommendation, accept the quote and approve the purchase of the 2019 ABA Force Z23 SLT and attachments to the amount of $27,801 with only that bid as it is a unique piece of equipment with funding from the Capital Improved Equipment Fund.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that was an easy one, Dale. Now you want to buy a pickup.
it's a replacement, it's not an ad. So we have, this year in the capital improvement plan, the 2019-2028, includes replacement number 32. It's a 2002 Ford F-350 pickup. We have $30,000 budgeted for it. This pickup is used daily to assist in maintenance staff, full-time and seasonal, in performing routine public works maintenance activities, such as transporting mowers, trash pickup, playground equipment maintenance, snow plowing, etc. The proposed replacement is a 2020 Ford F-250 4x4 pickup. Delivery of the pickup would be expected in early 2020, so I'm just looking, because this year's models are already out, in the 2020s, we'd have to wait till after 2019 here to get delivery of it at this point for the order. And they did say it could be possibly by December, but I'm going to just be more comfortable saying it early 2020. So the quotes we received for the from three different vendors, first one being Midway Ford Commercial, their quote was for $33,527 for the specified pickup. 1040 Ford was $31,175, and Apple Autos was $30,921.80. So staff's recommendation is to approve the quote from Apple Autos for the $30,921.80. So the actions requested by the town board is accept the quotes and then approve the purchase from Apple Auto for $30,921.80.
Going once.
I thought I made a notation of it, but one of these has a snowplow package, which you want, right?
Yeah,
Because- Do they all have it?
yes, they do.
Okay, I guess
they
I only
do.
saw it on the one. Yeah, I didn't see it on this other one.
This one? First page of it. 47. Snowplow package.
Oh, okay.
And
So is there any advantage, Dale, of ordering it versus buying something off the lot? Obviously, we get exactly what we want.
the unfortunate thing for a lot of the lot ones now, they're more expensive vehicles, the ones they have sitting on the lot, than just to order the package that we've got proposed here. You might end up with a few extras, like
Hey, don't take this the wrong way, but why do they need cruise control?
I think that just comes with that, you know how the packages are, they just come with it.
No,
It's hard, if it was up to me, I'd say roll down windows, rubber
Well, I don't know if I
floor.
want to go that far.
How did you get cruise control on your truck, Ed?
The kids now don't even know what a crank is on a window. Hey, wait a minute now, Mr. High Country.
Yeah. Yeah, be careful what you
Yeah,
say
you-
over there.
All right, any questions, Dale?
Nope.
Any idea what the replacement one is worth? Obviously, we send that off to auction.
Yeah, well, I think the intent right now is to keep it as like a NA, or NR, I'm sorry, not replaceable, so we can use it for seasonal staff during the summer months until it gets to a point where it's,
Inoperable.
well, we don't get quite that far, but it is to the point where we need to be.
How many miles
disposing.
are on it? I'm sorry.
I want to say 70. Don't quote me on that 100%, but but it's plow miles.
Just as an aside, my former employer would have said, that's just getting warmed up.
Plow miles are tough. All right, any other questions, comments? Looks like you want this in two forms of a motion, looks like.
Yes.
Receive the quotes and then approve.
Should we give the authority to Dale? Make it 3 parts of the motion?
So I will move, based on Public Works Director review and recommendation, to receive the quotes.
I'll second.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? That motion carries.
And based on Public Works Director review and recommendation, approve the quote from Apple Autos in the amount of $30,921.80 to replace pickup truck number 32 with funding from the Capital Equipment Fund.
Motion's made. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, that ends our agenda. We have one added agenda, item 9A, water gremlin.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, if I may, I've submitted a draft for a position statement on behalf of the township regarding the water gremlin and PCA issue. This is to initiate discussion and conversation amongst the board as to where they would like to position themselves with this, as it has been kind of a growing clamor for the township to make their position known. So what I would take right now are any kind of comments that you might have on what you have in front of you, and I think Mr. Attorney will probably have some interpretation on authority in this discussion as well.
Well, Chad, do you have any objection of us reading this off the way it's stated, or
No,
you?
I do not.
Any additions or deletions?
I do not.
Patrick, do you want to do this, or you want me to do it?
I can read it.
Okay,
I also have a suggestion for a change when I get to it as well.
that's another reason for you to do it.
Okay. So here, the White Bear Township's position on the water gremlin situation is as follows. White Bear Township's Board of Supervisors and staff have been monitoring the ongoing issues specific to water gremlin since the MPCA notified the public in January of 2019. The board has been dismayed, to say the least, at water gremlin's failure to grasp the many opportunities it has been handed to succeed over the past 8 months. At this point, the board will continue to observe the situation and defer to the rightful authority, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, as the agency has preemptive authority over the township in these matters. If there is a responsibility that falls upon the township as directed by the MPCA, we will act accordingly. Mr. Chair, I would submit to you one change, rethought the word, first paragraph, last line, where it says, water gremlin's failure to grasp the many opportunities it has been handed to succeed. I would change succeed to comply. Unless the board has a different opinion.
No, also, Patrick, do you want to add into the MDH, Minnesota Department of Health? Should that be in there?
Mr. Attorney, should I?
Well, as part of the rightful authority in paragraph 2?
Primary authority is the MPCA, but I think the Minnesota Department of Health also has a role here too as well, so I think it's a good idea.
I think we should at least put them and mention them.
Okay.
I'd make one other little tweak, as long as you're tweaking.
Sure.
And I believe this is the correct way to say it, in your first paragraph where you use the acronym MPCA, and down in the second paragraph, you say the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, you should flip those.
You're right.
And put in parentheses behind the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, parentheses MPCA.
I know, scary, isn't it?
And the same if we're adding the Minnesota Department of Health, then acronym for that.
Can do.
So, Chad, I got a question, and so the comment is that the MPCA has a preemptive authority, which means they can overrule anything the township, or they have oversight where the township is, on businesses in the township. I know we issue permits for construction, and a few years ago, there was, Water Gremlin had wanted to expand. Obviously, I was on the EDAB at that time, and this was not discussed. We didn't know about it. If we had known about it, maybe we wouldn't have issued the permit. I don't know, but it would have been a part of the conversation. But now that we know about it, can we go back in time and remove that permit? I mean, they built the building, I guess, but
No.
what can the township actually do at this point?
because the MPCA under statute has total control over the issues of what chemicals are allowed to be used in the used and how they're handled within the environment and what they're allowed to, the amount that's allowed to enter the environment, this town really has no role whatsoever. The town could not condition any permits upon water gremlin reaching a certain level of emissions, because that is strictly under the control of the MPCA. They have, the term preemption is used, but really what is, in addition to that, it's the MPCA has total control over the field, is the way to put it. They control this. The town could not create its own set of regulations regarding emissions.
Is that both in the air and in the ground?
Completely, both in the air and in the ground, in the environment, period.
Environment, period.
Air, ground, water, doesn't make any difference.
All right, any other questions, Chad? Is this something we'll formally adopt, something we want to put on the website?
I would do that. I would also submit it to White Bear Press.
Would it go in News and Views, maybe?
Sure.
In
Good
the
idea.
bigger lettering?
Bigger version of News and Views?
It should have probably a date underneath it, because your 8 months is going to disappear, and it's going to be seen well after 8 months, so,
You're right. Got it.
You could just say since the first of the year.
yeah. You could do that, 1st of January of 2019.
Anything else?
Then it's ongoing, yeah.
Nope, obviously, we'll just consider this accepted under action item number 11. Receipt of agenda materials and
Yes.
supplements? Okay. All right, any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we're done with the agenda. We are at open time. I understand we have a guest who'd like to introduce himself. Please come up to the podium, your name and address.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Randy Jessup. I am a candidate for Ramsey County Commissioner. And I will have to say, Patrick Christofferson, for the record, I really appreciate your statement regarding the water gremlin situation. I did attend the latest MPCA update August 27th and was impressed by the number of residents that were in the audience that night. This is clearly a major concern, a major issue for residents of White Bear Township, as well as, I would say, some of the additional cities around. So I was very encouraged, I will say, that night to hear from the new commissioner for the MPCA. She clearly sees this as a major, if not the top priority on her list for her agency. And it was encouraging to see so many resources really applied upon this particular situation. So hopefully that will improve the matters, that the company will say comply, as you have pointed out, and to make sure that the water is safe and also the environment is safe for all of the residents in the area. So in any event, I just thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, to be with you, and I applaud in general your efforts, but I do applaud the statement that you are coming up with for the township in regards to water gremlin. So thank you.
Just one question, Randy. The election for Ramsey County Commissioner is
Yes.
November.
Thank you, Supervisor. It is November 5th.
5th.
Tuesday, November 5th. On the ballot, not only will be the question raised regarding the commissioner race, but also, as I think many of you know, there will be a couple of questions, most likely regarding the school board and then also the bond referendum for White Bear Lake schools. And I did have the opportunity to meet with the supervisor last Friday, and he took me through that. And I will just say, initially, the news reports came out, you know, with some of our local media talking about how huge the $328 million bond levy is. And yes, it's a large amount. But what the school district is seeking really puts it on a level playing field with bond levies that are in other school districts in the area. And in particular, for me, I live in Mounds View. The Mounds View School District has a bond levy that was established, I want to say it was 2017, for upgrading all of the schools there. And what the White Bear Lake Schools is asking for is essentially the same amount as what was approved for Mounds View. The Roseville School District has a much higher bond levy than what the White Bear Lake schools are pursuing. None of us like increased taxes. I get that. You know, I'm a small business person. We want to look for the finances. But I will say, after meeting with him and hearing why and what is desired to be accomplished for not only now for the students, but also for the students of the future, I have to say I think they have done their homework, and I, as a candidate, am going to be in favor of that bond levy referendum. I'm not a voter for it. I live in Shoreview. But just from an outsider and having gone through the same experience for the Mounds View School District, I do think this is a good investment overall for this community and for the students of these residents.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That ends, okay, item number 11, I need a motion to receive agenda materials and supplements.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Motion's made, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned at 9:46.
I'll second that.
Don't forget Steve.
I guess I assumed.
You jumped the gun.
I assumed.
I couldn't resist, I'm sorry.